Breaking news now, the U.S. Supreme Court has just issued a ruling determining if former President Donald Trump can remain on the Republican presidential ballot in Colorado. KTLA's Eric Spillman live in the newsroom with the story. Eric, good morning.
Morning, Frank, and the decision came just minutes ago from the U.S. Supreme Court. Donald Trump's name will stay on the Colorado primary ballot. It was a unanimous decision by the justices. You'll recall that Colorado Supreme Court ruled in December that Trump was ineligible to be on the ballot there because the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution prohibits anyone who engaged in insurrection from holding office. Well, just a few minutes ago, the U.S. Supreme Court reversed that decision in Colorado. It means that Trump's name will be on the ballot tomorrow in Colorado and also in the other states that discussed disqualifying him. Those other states would be Maine and Illinois. Tomorrow is Super Tuesday. That means 16 states, including California, are holding primaries. A lot of delegates are at stake, even though there's not a whole lot of suspense about the outcome either on the Republican or the Democratic side. Former President Trump is expected to make a clean sweep of the Republican primaries tomorrow. He needs 1,215 delegates to lock up the nomination, and he's well on his way. If he wins California by 50% or more tomorrow, he will take all of California's 169 delegates. At rallies over the weekend, he focused his fire on President Biden, although at a rally in Virginia, he appeared to confuse Biden's name with former President Obama's.
And Putin, has so little respect for Obama that he's starting to throw around the nuclear word today. You heard that, nuclear. He's starting to talk nuclear weapons today.
Over the weekend, Nikki Haley won her first primary, the one in the District of Columbia. She beat Trump there by a margin of 62% to 33%. She becomes the first woman ever to win a GOP primary in U.S. history. She has promised to stay in the race until at least tomorrow. Yesterday on Meet the Press, she refused to say if she would endorse Trump if she bows out.
I don't think Donald Trump or Joe Biden should be president. I don't think that we need two candidates in their 80s. I don't think we want a Joe Biden who calls his opponents fascists or a Donald Trump who calls his opponents vermin. No one wants that.
For President Biden, some bad poll numbers over the weekend. A New York Times Siena College survey of registered voters has Biden losing to Trump by 5 percentage points. That same poll found that voters are deeply concerned about Biden's age. Here are the numbers on that question. 47% of those surveyed strongly agree that Biden is too old to be an effective president, compared to 21% who strongly agree that Trump is too old to be an effective president. New this morning, Biden, in an interview with The New Yorker, says there was never a time that he ever doubted that he would run for re-election. He says, quote, "I'm the only one who's ever beaten Trump, and I'll beat him again," unquote. Jessica?